Mike, this is represent the key of the town. We believe that our town is dying now because we don't have any wood supply. We'll give you the flag and the key of the community, and we'll ask you to bring that to Premier McGenzie and ask him to resolve the issue prior of October 6th. Ce qu'on va faire, on donne le drapeau, la clé du village, pour M. Brown amène ça au Premier ministre McGenzie, puis demander de résoudre le problème avant les élections du 6 octobre, parce qu'on est vraiment déçus, et on a une communauté est en train de mourir parce qu'on n'a pas de wood supply, d'allocation de bois. Et puis, ok, donc je vais aller chercher, j'en ai un. J'ai also a certificate for Mr. Dubreuilville that we'll give you, and I would like you to give that to Mr. Dubreuilville. And that certificate is pretty simple. It's saying that if he hanged the certificate on October 7th in his house, that means we didn't get wood supply and he didn't get re-elected. Again, we'll ask him to fix the issue prior of the election. So that's our message we ask you, Mike, to bring back to those two persons.
As Deputy Mayor Mike, I just want to say that this is just a start. Like, you know, Dubreuilville has always been, we do event stuff, and we're always there to do good ideas, and we always push, and there are other communities always together. Well, this is a big thing for us, and until October 6th, we're not going to stop. This is just the beginning. The things that we have, once the election starts, myself too, I'm planning, I have to follow, go to where Mr. Dubreuilville will be, even others, we will go and show up where it will be campaigning. And we will bring the coffin and other stuff and people. And we will fight to the end for our community. So, this is our message that we have to bring. It's too bad that we had to go all this way, but we did use everything politically. We went all the good ways and everything, but now we have to bring up the another notch. This is our message. We'll be heard. And this won't be the last.
It's for Mr. Dubreuilville. So I don't know if you have something to say or the crowd have a question to ask, but that was our presentation. We didn't mean to hurt anybody, but we need to start a message for this place.
It's hurting a lot of people. A lot of people will be losing out and have already lost their houses, and now this can be even worse.
Well, thank you for coming this afternoon. I appreciate that. I want you to know that 9 million cubic meters of wood in the forests of Ontario was not being used. Not being used. It was a deal with the government of Ontario. The Ontario northern communities needed jobs and needed to be able to move forward. I believe that the process that the government proposed for having the wood supply situation resolved was supported by everyone I know. I don't remember receiving one objection in my office to the wood supply competition before it occurred. Not one. I may be wrong, maybe somebody knows, but the process appeared to be agreed to by the forest communities and the forest products companies. I could be wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, that was it. The government put in place a process and a fairness commissioner to decide how that would work. It was clear that we could not continue to do business the way we had been in Northern Ontario, or the Ontario period. The world had changed, and the way forests work was changing also, with or without government. And it had, as you know, hurt many communities across Northern Ontario. This is one. When was the last time anybody here worked at Dubreuil Forest Products?
Well, I won't name people, but there's people in this country here on welfare and they lost their houses.
Well, that's right. And was that the government's fault? It was because the company couldn't sell their wood. Right.
Yeah,
That would be
you're right.
why they could not sell their wood. Why couldn't they sell their wood? They couldn't sell their wood because nobody was buying wood. The markets of the U.S., where the majority of softwood lumber is used, were not building houses. People were not buying wood. That's what was going on. So as we come to hopefully the end of this, and hopefully the Americans start to purchase lumber, price of lumber increases, we can put some people back to work in that sector, we have some choices to make. In the meantime, the world is still changing. That's why the government did what it did. And in this area, we have more wood allocated to companies operating in my constituency than we had before. Maybe cool comfort to somebody who doesn't get a wood allotment, but that's the truth. I have, at the instigation or the ask of your leadership, your mayor, the other folks, people from Dubreuil Forest, arranged meetings. We met with, on at least 2 occasions, met with delegations from here on less than 24 hours' notice to hear their concerns and to hear their possible solutions. And there are solutions. The wood competition is coming to an end. Once the competition is finished, there's still wood unallocated in the forests of Ontario. I'm not exactly sure what they all are because the government makes offers. Some companies take them, some companies don't. At the end of that process, we will know. But we do know that the forest allocation that was asked for by Dubreuil Forest was somewhere around 500,000 cubic meters, I believe, of a total planned use of wood of around 740,000 cubic meters. They did not, I'm trying to remember the numbers, but I think it's around 190,000 cubic meters were asked for by harvest root. There were other wood asked for by, I think, Licour in the forest, and some of those were honored. But you should know that the majority of the wood asked for by Dubreuil Forest was in the big pit, right? My present, if I'm recalling, it's 300,000 cubic meters approximately in the big pit forest, of which Buchanan has, and I don't know what the number is, but Buchanan has allocated in that forest already over 100,000 cubic meters. It might be a little bit more. The fact is, the government has allocated wood to Buchanan. It was actually even removed from the competition. So it is not as if the government is not wanting to support a Buchanan-owned company. Buchanan already has, as I said, an allocation in the big pit.
It doesn't help Dubreuil.
That's true. I'm not, you can maybe talk to Buchanan about that, but the fact is they have an allocation there. The allocation Dubreuil Forest, they can tell you, planned on in most years, actually, if I'm using Dave's numbers themselves, was finding another 500,000 cubic meters of wood in other places. So by my numbers, it still appears that there's about 700,000 cubic meters available, and we just have to go find it. If I'm wrong on that, if I've added it up wrong, somebody could help me with that. But I'm just going by the numbers that have been supplied.
But you have to understand also, Mike, that in the situation, I was there personally last year, and Mr. Dubreuilville told the former mayor not to worry about the wood allocation. The sun will just have to apply, and there wasn't going to be a major issue. The company went through the process, and through that process, as all we know, the company had their hands tied because they were confidentiality agreements signed by them. They cannot divulgate any of that information during the process, which is fine. It is what it is. Then this year we find out that they lost their wood allocation. Then we find out that the MPP forest, that the forest that is surrounding Dubreuilville, has been given away to another community. We're not mad at our pain. we're not a White River, we're not to any other community, because we have a regional mayors group in this region that work very well together. And to a certain degree, we believe that the government, to a certain degree, will put communities to communities against each other. And I hope that will never happen, because they have worked hard for the last 10 years to make this happen with this region. And the trust we have between the communities, even if we are francophone in Dubreuilville, I mean, we are friends with Wawa, White River, and Manitowoc, and all those communities, and we all work together. But when you look at everything, and you put your feet in the shoes of the residents of Dubreuilville, the only thing they hear is always bad news. With the company have closed due to market issues, you're right. Wood allocation came up. Then they didn't get their wood supply, even if we were told we don't have to worry about it. So, for sure, Mike, you probably didn't receive anything through your office about any concern, because people was on the impression, why worry? Now they are in front of the accomplished matter that the traditional wood supply of the MPP forest has been given away. That do scare people. They have investment in this community. Your government has invested millions of dollars in this community. They have built a brand new high school. They have invested $3.5 million to upgrade the arena, and thank you very much. We really appreciate it. The road project, we have money from the feds and the province also in there. We have other programs that would benefit from the province. We're not saying that everything is bad from the province. That's not what we're saying. But at this point, that's where we are. We're basically desperate. Because if there's no sawmill, that means this summer, it's our last celebration we'll have for our 50th anniversary, because we won't have any future. We cannot just base ourselves on the mines. We know the mines will go away. It's a cycle. And the mines don't replace the job for the forestry sector. This town was built through a sawmill. It's the most dependent community from the forest, from the government survey or document. So, this is where we are. And I mean, we want to pass a message, and that's why I say at the beginning, you are our MPP. You are our messenger. So we provide you with two messages to bring back. We didn't want to beat you. We didn't bring the tar and the feathers and all that. So we won't we won't beat you in the tar. But I mean, we want you to help us. You are MPP, and you told us in the past, and I know, Mike, we met on different occasions, that you were going to work for your people from your riding, and I know you did. We saw letters that you have sent to Minister Dubreuilville, and I know you have done work on our behalf. But we just want to reinforce our message, and we want to make sure that you have the tools to go back to them now and say, listen, here's an issue.
The government knows there's an issue.
Okay.
The government, and I will take these back to the government. The government thinks there's a solution, and we will continue to work towards that solution. The solution will not become apparent until the competition closes, which should be very short. Okay. We have to wait for all the offers to be made. I think they've all been offered across the province. And once they've all been offered and the proponents have decided either to take or not take, then we know what is actually available. We know that there can be some good work done, I hope, to find a way to make communities work. I would tell you, though, that the Rentec proposal at White River will employ probably 1,000 people to build starting in about a year and a half. I know that's a year and a half. It is a proposal that does not take a stick of wood from Dubreuilville, not one stick. It's all unmerchantable timber. It is nothing that can be cut into saw logs. And any suggestion that happens is just plain false. I've seen that reported, and that's unfortunate. White River also, with that, there's a potential that particular area, through some business arrangements that will happen, has the potential of employing 400 to 500 people directly, not counting those in the woods or those in the trucks, by the time it's all unfolds over the next year. Talking to Angelo Bizzoni this morning in White River, and he was telling me that Rentec has already been there. They have hired a consulting engineering firm they have people coming next month, and that there are things going on, and that has absolutely nothing to do with your wood supply.
No, and I know.
No, so you just should know that, because I've heard things, and so you sort of see that happen. In Hornpain, they have had struggles also. They are a small town, about the same size you are, with a family that's owned a sawmill for 58 years, with a family that's still at their sawmill that they founded. They have been working hard through that, and have had difficulty with wood supply. They presented a proposal, that was done. I think, hopefully we can find a way that everybody comes out of this all right. But, I mean, as you say, we don't want to be pitting community against community, but the government can't invent wood. There's only so much wood there to harvest. And we have to move on with how we do it, or nobody's working anyway. That's kind of the situation. So, I'm here, and I can tell you, I've been to Dubreuilville at least 6 or 7 times a year. As you pointed out, no government has ever provided more assistance to Dubreuilville than this one, whether it be your high school, whether it be your arena, whether it be, you name it. There's a list that's longer than my arm, representing millions upon millions of dollars to this community. We aren't giving up on Dubreuilville. We just ask Dubreuilville doesn't give up on itself. So we will continue to work with you to see if we can find a solution. But understand that Dubreuil Forest Products is not Dubreuilville. As Havisrud is not Hornpain, as Domtar wasn't White River. These are companies that are charged with making a profit year to year. That's what they do. They make the proposals, not the community. Then we're not privy. You aren't, anybody isn't, to what individual companies do. We don't know when we compare Dubreuil Forest submission against Havisrud's Forest submission, because it's not Dubreuilville against Hornpain, it's Havisrud and Dubreuil Forest competing for some of the same thing. That's what it is. And that's the way the Province Fairness Commission would have looked at it. And I've seen the results of the way Dubreuil Forest was scored in terms of the community. I haven't seen what Hornpain's is. And I haven't seen what White River's is. And I haven't seen what Wawa's. But I do know, at the end of this, the region will be far stronger economically than it was when we began, and I think Dubreuilville needs to be part of it. So that's where I am. I will be happy to take this path. I think there's opportunity.
Mike, I just want to add that the solution that you guys are going to come up, I hope it's not going to be like putting more money into the adjustment, community adjustment committee. It's just for us to come up with better ideas for the diversified economy, because it's been done in the past, and then every time we come up with an idea for a business, there's no room for funding to make those ideas come in, because nobody invests in these areas. Investors are not there. So even if the province kicks in 70% or 90%, it's that 10% that we can't get. And a lot of time we came up with good projects that we could have done in 40 years. But there's always that little catch that we get the private sector to invest, and that's our problem here. So we need something.
I don't think, I do. I understand. We're not at the point. Unfortunately, anybody who represents a riding like Algoma, Manitoulin, is usually all about resources. Either agriculture or uranium mines in Elliott Lake, or paper and pulp mills, or sawmills, you name it. It's all resources. I mean, I've been through the closing of Elliott Lake, and I don't want to go through having Budweiser came there and closed all their mines. That wasn't very good. But I don't want to go through that again. I was a member there, and we worked very hard and we found solutions. But here, I think we need to have some kind of a forestry base, and the Dubreuil Forest Products has done a great job in providing employment over the years, and we just have to find a way to provide the timber too. That's pretty much the way it is. And just because it didn't come out of the first allocation process doesn't mean it won't come out. So I know there is in the big pic, for example, a fair amount of timber there was before, and unless David knows something different than I do, considerable amount of timber that can be brought from other places. They did it through the years, all the time they were in business. So I don't know if they just evaporated or whether they're still around somewhere.
No, they're there, Mike. The issue is that you need an economical wood supply. And to be economical, you need your wood supply in your backyard. And to take the wood supply from this community and give it to another community makes absolutely no sense. And you're right, initially there were no concerns about the whole process because the process up front was to use unutilized material that wasn't historically being used by facilities. So we're in the worst economic downturn that we've ever seen in the softwood lumber industry. We've seen a mill that's run 45 continuous years and then have its lifeline yanked away by a minister that won't intervene in the process that is fundamentally flawed. And yourself, Mike, you even wrote in your letter, you don't understand why that would happen.
I do. I can't speak for Mr. Dubreuil, but I can speak for myself.
That's right.
And I could not imagine this happening. Like, I didn't understand this would be what the process would yield.
And we've had support from you all along, but it's your government that's not supporting us.
Well, I think that's unfair. I think the government is supporting the process. There was a process put in place. And for us to make one exception would blow up the whole thing. We'd start from scratch somewhere.
White River was an exception. White River
So was Terrace Bay was an exception.
That's right. So the minister
But,
has
but that was before the process began.
White River was before. Terrace Bay was during.
So we shouldn't have done that. We should have left Terrace Bay.
No, because it made economic sense. The same as it makes sense to save Dubreuilville.
Well, I don't disagree with the part. You know, I don't think we're at odds here.
No, we're not. We're at odds. We're at odds with Dubreuil and the Liberal government of Ontario. And unfortunately, Mike, I really like you, and you've done a lot for us over the years. But I personally cannot continue to support the Liberal government.
Well, you know,
Also, Mike, I would like to ask you if you can talk to the staff of MNDMF and Sault Ste. Marie
yeah.
and make sure they are in contact with me, because early this year, their officer in Wawa did contact me to arrange a meeting with the mayor, the EDC general manager, myself, and staff from Sault Ste. Marie to look at options to diversify the economy or find out ways to move forward. 2 weeks after that scheduled meeting was in place, the person in Wawa did contact me back and advised me that unfortunately the meeting has need to be cancelled, and they will be in touch with us to let us know the next date. I'm still waiting. We're more than prepared to work with the province, and even the comment of Bill Ford from Sault Ste. Marie in one email saying that we don't want to work with the province. It's not true. We want to work with. You just have to come and see us. We proved it. We went to Toronto and you arranged a meeting with Prepel for us, and we did travel. The mayor, Dave Jennings, Guy Bourgoin, and myself, especially for that, to meet with Prepel and yourself and other members of the parties in Ontario, because we want to look at all our options to move forward. But we're more than willing, our door are open to work with the province. So please ask them to
I think, yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
We mind.
Yeah.
We feel that the
didn't bring anything to write with.
We feel that the community suffered enough already. A lot of people lost their jobs, their houses, their cars, and if it continues, we're going to lose our friends. We're going to be separated from our own families, and Dubreuilville is our family. When is it going to stop?
Well,
And if there's nobody here to run that nice arena and that high school, it's going to be closed. That money would have put there for what? We want help, not in a year. We want help now.
I understand that. And if the mill's been running all along, this wouldn't have happened. The mill wasn't running all along because nobody's buying the product. Because the product was, the price just wasn't right, you couldn't sell it.
So why come up with this process during the worst time you can't?
Because there was 9 million cubic meters doing nothing, and the government felt, I think everybody in the forest industry felt, and everybody in Northern Ontario that was paying any attention, was if we went and did the same old thing again, the same old thing would happen.
So how much is being used today, Mike?
Well, the allocation system isn't over.
Yeah, so basically less than 9 million cubic meters. And in a year from now, the forecast for housing markets and everything is not improving. How much wood is going to be used? What happens if they don't use the wood? They start using it?
What would your suggestion be, David?
Well, I know in some of the other ones that I'm familiar with, there's a drop dead date that if it doesn't start using the wood by a certain date, it loses it.
That's good.
And it should be like that.
Well, that's what's going to happen.
But we don't know the details of that.
Well,
And Mr. Brown, you're saying, Jean-Jacques, Mr. Worker in Casket, and you were saying that there were 9 million cubic meters not utilized
yes.
in this forest. How come, well, this company is asking for 500,000 cubic meters, how come it's not allocated yet?
Some of it is. Some of it has been allocated to the harvester company in Armenia. I understand some to the Fluor, but I don't know how much.
I understand that, but there are still 8.5 million cubic meters not allocated.
In Northern Ontario, I'm talking about right here, in this wood basket right close by. I can only talk about the allocation that Mr. Jennings has told me they were asking for. Their ask, you can tell me how much is left over there. That was the biggest ask. That was a bigger ask than it was on the Magma.
Yeah, so there's actually more left on the big pick right now than we were asking for in the nice lot. So why would they not give Havelstrud the big pick?
Well, that's a good question, and that question could be resolved, I think, as soon as the allocations are finished being made on the big pick, right? Yeah. I think there's some opportunity, as there always has been in the forest industry, as far as I know, that companies find somebody else's wood more easily access than perhaps their own, and the other company finds the opposite. So you can, they can share wood and move those around. Nobody's stopping that. As far as I know, I don't know unless somebody's told you that. So it hasn't been allocated, and some, as I said, in the big pick is merchantable lumber and is allocated to Buchanan and Terrace Bay. So there may be some opportunity. All I'm saying is there might be some opportunities. I'm not a forester. I don't know where everything is on the map and what's successful, what's not, all that kind of stuff. Guys like David do. So I'm hopeful that we've just got some time, and hopefully we'll get this thing wound up. It's taken on a life of its own because of the contracts and whatever. But I think it should be done fairly soon, and hopefully we can get at the business of resolving whatever issues are here right now. I don't know how else to do that, unless you're telling me that the harvester's plan was inferior, and a company that has operated through most of this period and is operating today, providing jobs in Horn Plain, shouldn't have an allocation.
I don't know, Thornton indicated they weren't running.
Horn Plain's always not running.
They're running today.
So on a single shift.
Well, yeah, but they're running.
Half of the wood they were.
They're running today.
How much money are they making today?
They're in business.
They're not making any.
They're in business. That is what I know.
Okay, anyway, even if we keep going for another 3 hours, I guess we won't achieve more than that. I mean, hopefully you can let us know when the process is over. I know I read something on the internet yesterday that was almost done through the Wawa News website, so something in that matter. So we'd like you to let us know when it's over, and I know that Mr. Dubreuilville and yourself, and we were in the same room in Toronto, said that after the process is over, we'll find ways to get wood to Dubreuilville, but what's the general manager of the sawmill saying that to be economically
Big walls.
Obviously,
Yeah. So, thank you very much, Mike, and, right, Darcy?
So what about the commerce cleaning job? Second, when's there so much cutback? There's one job here.
That's true. That is a disappointment, and I'll tell you why. The disappointment is that the province has just as much money in that program as it did last year, that the federal government, which was a partner in that program, has not provided money for those jobs. So, if you want to talk about why there isn't as many summer jobs, then maybe you should talk to Mrs. Hughes.
One more question, Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
Not also, is Dubreuilville not getting wood allocations, but what's happening with our roads being taken away from us for the everyday adventures and fishing, hunting, and stuff like that? Where do you stand on this, and what can you tell us about it?
Well, I can, you've actually got people that know more about that in this room than I do. Fluid and Luke and Rajon, and there's maybe more in this room.
Yeah, Anik, actually the last part, Luke was not involved, but Anik was involved. I know we have worked on this, and at this point, we were told by the Wawa district that was going to be presented to the Minister Jeffrey, to see if they are allowed to go on the ADR. So at this point, that's the only thing I know.
Okay, I can tell you, I will am scheduled to have a briefing from the Minister on the, or from the Ministry, and I don't know if Ms. Jeffrey, the Minister, will be on the phone call tomorrow. She will be. So I'll be talking to the Minister tomorrow. Where I stand for the most open and accessible option that is provided from the committee that comes up. We all know we have to share the forest. We have to share the forest with the forest companies, obviously. We have to share the forest with people that want to, various forms of recreation. We want to share the forest with people that find other pursuits. So, you know, there's a lot of things that I can't even consider, but the harvesting of wild bear, and all of those kinds of things. We have to share the forest. The forest belongs to the Queen. The Queen gets to decide how we do it. That's the best way to look at it. I think there's room for all of us to exist out there in a reasonable way, but the less restriction, the better. So that's clearly where I stand. It would be nice to have no restrictions, but the world doesn't work like that. And we have to respect those people that make a living in the forest, and we have to allow as much freedom in the forest to do fish, hunt, do those kind of things. And as a matter of fact, 2 years ago in this very room, just before Thanksgiving, one of your former mayors, who remained nameless, he came in to see me, and he said, you know that they're closing the road up on the 401, and there's a stop sign up there, you can't go up. And I said, I didn't know anything about it, and so it was Friday of Thanksgiving weekend. I drove to Wawa, had a chat with one of the few employees left at the M&R office late in the afternoon, and we had that decision reversed for them. And I worked hard to keep the roads. I told them I don't like fences or gates. I don't like berms. I don't like them pulling culverts unless it's an absolute danger to the public. Let's keep it as open as we can open, and respect other people in the forest.
I just want to comment too that of course we are surrounded by a vast territory, but we're also surrounded by major parks. And it seems with this Dubreuil project that it seems they're trying to build, I get the impression they're trying to build another park. We have the Puckasaw Park, we have the Chapel Park, which is probably one of the biggest reserves. And now, especially in our backyard, it seems like this Dubreuil project and all the restrictions that they want to impose and everything, it seems like we're really being caged in. And of course, I do believe, like you said, everybody should have a share. Everybody should have a share. But it seems to me like the elite group is getting the cream. And you know, of course, Dubreuilville is suffering because the wood industry, wood allocation. But in regards that, if we do still have those wood allocations, I mean, people still need to survive, to live, to enjoy the quality of life. And our quality of life here in Dubreuilville, like everybody's done sacrifices as far as being remote, and the only pleasure and that we do have, most of us, is the outdoors, the fishing, the hunting, the hiking. We also have road-based tourism, which also helps out with the economy. So, you know, this is a very, the whole thing is a very, very important to us. And I hope you could bring, not also for the wood allocation, but for this FLUA project and the road restrictions.
I'm glad you raised that, because it is, there are lots of restrictions out there today. One of the reasons I favored Kahlua going forward was to put less restrictions on them. As the forest management plans are developed, the roads close after, what, 20 years often, David? They're closed. In theory, people were to go on those roads after the 20 years. Those plans are in place. The idea here is to move beyond that and to have the public actually understand it. But what's going to stay there, what's not going to stay there, how it's going to be rearranged, who gets, because as the forest company moves through the forest doing what they do, the road system changes, what's maintained is changed. That's the way it is. We need to have people understand how that works. The second thing I think is fair to say is there's more people out in the forest than there were 20 years ago on those roads and doing those things, because we've got better machines. There were no ATVs 20 years ago. There were not so many of us had four-wheel drive trucks, those kind of things, and the roads have gotten better. So we have more people out there, which has caused, but you're right, we got parks. Parks are for very restricted access under very restricted terms. The game preserver, for example, is not even a park. It has a separate legislation in 1925 or so that made it, it preserves the game, but doesn't say anything about forestry or any of those other things. So it's kind of an anomaly. But you're right. So on the Crown land that's there, I believe we should find the least restrictive regulation on it. I've told people here in Dubreuilville that before. I've never changed my mind. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I think we're back at FLUA again was I said to the minister and the ministry, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but said to Minister Jeffrey and her staff, is the options are acceptable. We have to look for a wider open point of view, because that's what the people in Dubreuilville, the people in Cornpayne, the people in White River, and the people in Walworth. So
we're also up in a big deal because it's all the communities in the north, and it's a
yeah.
big issue. I remember Mr. Bisson from, I think, Timmins, or that area, he stood up and asked Minister Jeffrey, made the news. The answers were pretty vague. What was your questions to Minister Jeffrey?
I probably had some questions to Minister Jeffrey, but my questions are usually not done in the House. Matter of fact, almost never. I'm a government member. That changes the dynamic usually, because we can walk down the hall and talk to the ministers one floor up with me. I just go and say, hi Linda, what about this? So, yeah, we don't ask, if you want an opposition member, and I've been that, and I think I've been a pretty good one when I was in opposition. Did a pretty good job from Dubreuilville when I was in opposition, I think. But I haven't asked a question about that, but Timmins doesn't even have Kahlua. They have a different, they're under just a normal forest planning process. And you'll find that they don't really have as many issues as we do, because there's been some real inconsistency across the Wawa district is how it works. So we're just trying to bring some consistency and make it wider open, not tighter. And if it turns out, I don't support Kahlua if it moves to a more restrictive thing. I've been clear about that right from the beginning.
Did you say if it involves more restriction areas right now, you don't support Kahlua?
Yeah.
So are you in favor of Kahlua for what the restrictions, the demands on the restrictions are at this moment?
Kahlua doesn't exist at this moment. That's
what I'm saying is that the demands on the positions.
Look, the public meetings are going to, I don't even know what the options are right now. That's what I'm going to be briefed about tomorrow. You could ask for Jean and anybody else in the room who knows directly about the options. And those are going out for the public, so you should get a chance, so whether it's here, Wawa, or wherever.
There'll be 5 open houses in the 5 communities. Was the original plan that was not approved by the minister and sent back to the PLUA, and then 3 other submission was made in, and you have again an extremist, and you have one more in sharing way that was developed by people more neutral, and everybody in every community will have the chance to comment on those proposition, and well, maybe we'll say I like A, but with some part of the B, or
yeah.
you know, I mean, it will be up to the people to come to those open house and make their comments. So when that happens, you can be assured that when I receive the email, I will advise everybody in town to let them know when the open house will be in view.
Yeah, and I think that's a good democratic way of going about it. You're going to be able to kick the tires on this and let people in your community, because every community's got people on that committee, talk to them. It doesn't need to be confrontational, I don't think. I think you can have a look, see what you think, and understand that we're looking for a balance. I think everybody would want that. And once that's done, once it's all out there, it'll come back to the government, and I guess we, at that point too, the government does. But it's an ongoing process. It's been going on now since, 2006 or somewhere in there. I used to have people it used to be the hotbed of all this was White River. I never went there without having at least one person come and talk to me about it.
The Kahlua, but before it was, this has been going on for many, many years.
Oh, this has been going on.
Because before the Kahlua, it was called Lens for Life. And I can remember, I think probably in 97 or even before it started. So probably in the 90s, early 90s somewhere. So
and there was one even before that. But I think the major difference has been that this, as forest management plans go forward, that's what people, I think, don't quite understand. A restriction that was agreed to in a forest management plan today, for example, nobody remembers about it 20 years from now. And so when that happens, people are surprised. And I think this is a more comprehensive way of looking at it, and hopefully we can get it that my real concern, and the major concern here, isn't with the tourist operators. Although I do think they provide economic stimulus and they should be, but my real concern is the people that live in my constituents that use the forest and the forest lands for recreation. That's, as somebody said, we don't go to Blue Jay games here in Dubreuilville. We go out and go fishing. We go out on our ATV and we go for a ride, or we go hunting, or whatever it happens to be, depending on the season. That's what people do. They go in their snowmobiles. Heck, I brought 3 or 4 or 5 ministers who would drown here over time on snowmobiles, and we've always appreciated how hospitable and helpful the people of Dubreuilville have been. You probably are more famous than most in terms of parliamentary people, because when I was organizing the one for this year, 2 of the members said, well, will Réjean and Luc be there? So, I think we'll get a result out of this. I'm hopeful that it works very well for the people in this area. And you get to come out and tell us. Well, I won't be here, but I do intend to go to the final one, if I understand, after the others will be in Wawa, I think.
I don't have the schedule yet.
Yeah, I don't, anyway, that's what my understanding is. I don't have dates or whether we're even at that point yet. But I will come to that one. I don't think I can possibly actually go to all of them, but I will at least go to one, and whether it's here or in Wawa or wherever it is, I will be there.
Good.
Because that's my job.
Thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully you will have a good news for us at the 50th anniversary in a couple of weeks from now. So you have lots of work to do.
We got lots of work. Always lots of work.